Hello and welcome to another video. So for today's video, I'm going to be reading a slightly popular book. I'm not exactly sure the level of popularity this book has, but like a lot of booktubers I watch have read this book, and that is Normal People by Sally Rooney. So recently she just came out with a new book. I believe it's called Beautiful People, Where Are You? And she also has another one, Conversations with Friends, and I heard that this one is like a highly romanticized romance, where Conversations with Friends is a more realistic romance. And then Beautiful People, Where Are You is a combination of both books. This is only things that I've heard. I don't know for a fact because obviously I've not read any of them yet. I don't know anything about this besides what I've already said. I know it's a romance. I know that it's supposedly really good. I think it takes place in Ireland. I don't know. This book has had a lot of hype. I don't know its Goodreads rating, but I will check that out for my next update. So this video, I'm gonna be rating this book and seeing if it's worth the hype. Alright, I just wanted to give a little update on Normal People. I'm on page 61, so I'm really not that far into the book. Not even close to halfway, honestly. But I did want to update because I have like a lot of thoughts on it already. So far, I'm really enjoying it. It's not really like anything I've ever read before, where I don't really know where the story's going or like what's gonna happen next. To be fair, I had no idea what this book was about when I first started. I didn't even know the character names. So the story's about Marianne and Connell, who are high school students. And Connell is one of those more popular guys where like everybody knows who he is, and like the popular girl has a crush on him and stuff like that. But he's like a nice guy, so he's not like a popular bully. Like it's not just stereotypical jock. And Marianne is kind of an outcast, so she comes from like a richer family, and Connell knows her because his mom is her cleaning lady. So she comes into Marianne's house twice a week and cleans, and the mom doesn't have a license, so Connell has to pick her up from and drop her off in the house. So he interacts with Marianne occasionally. They kind of like start talking, and then they start doing more than talking, and things get a little bit spicy. But it's not written that it's spicy, it's just like it implies it. Because Marianne is an outcast and because nobody really likes her at school and people kind of bully her when they're around her, Connell wants to keep everything a secret. That's like where I am in the book, and I'm curious where it's going from here. So this book uses a lot of slang that I'm unfamiliar with. It's really interesting to think about because when I read it, I think about how an outsider sees American slang, and I just think that's such an interesting concept. Like I have to look up what this slang means online, and I have to kind of interpret what I think it could mean because I don't know like the society around this slang. And I think it's so interesting because now I think about how would I explain American slang to people who either don't speak English or aren't from America. And I think that's so interesting. Like that's not the intention of the book, but like that's what I'm thinking about, and I think it's really cool. So another thing is Sally Rooney does not use quotation marks in her dialogue, which is, it's not confusing. Like it's one of those things where you can understand that somebody is talking, but it's an unfamiliar thing. So I find myself reading this book slower, which is great because then I can pick up more content. Yeah, so far it's a good experience reading it, and I'm enjoying the story, I'm enjoying the reading experience. All around, I'm enjoying it. So I wanted to make a little update before I got further into the story, and I kind of like forgot about this like new book feelings. Alright, so I finished the book, but before I get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who subscribed after my last video. So my last video, I asked people to subscribe for like the first time ever in like a really, really long time, and I got like 8 new subscribers off of that one video, and I'm I appreciate it so much. Like, that's way more than I usually get. So I just wanted to cut out a small spot in this video to say thank you. Thank you so much, and I should reach 150 subscribers in no time. Moving on to Normal People. I finished reading the book like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago maybe, and honestly, I have some mixed feelings about it. So I just kind of want to like go all the way back to the beginning because as I said, when I started reading this book, I didn't know what it was about. Honestly, I kind of wish I did know what it was about because it would have altered how I read the book. So kind of like the way I'm going to go with this is I'm going to tell you like genres I think this book should fall under, and then I'm going to tell you some of the vibes I got from it, and then a little bit more in-depth details about what I thought of it. So starting with genre. Originally going into this, I thought this was going to be a romance. There are romance aspects of it, but I don't think this is a romance. I think it's a little bit more contemporary fiction. Not exactly YA, but like new adult contemporary fiction. It's about these two characters, Connell and Marianne, whose lives intertwine in a couple of different ways for about like 4 years of their lives, like through their last year of high school up through college. Like the book ends while they're still in college. So I definitely would have read this a little bit differently, thinking it was going to be contemporary fiction instead of thinking it was going to be romance. So now onto the vibes of this book. This is unlike anything I've ever read before, although it does have similar vibes to forms of media. So I think the vibes are similar to Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think it's very similar to the Netflix show End of the Effing World, and it also has similar vibes to that song No Rain by Blind Melons, I believe it's called. And like if you know all three of these things, they're like vastly different things, but like the vibes are similar. And it's one of those things that it's just hard to explain, but the vibes are there. That being said, on to more what I thought of the book. I think I'm gonna give this 3 stars, honestly. So I enjoyed the book. Like there's reasons why I didn't give it a full 5 stars, and I do feel bad because I was expecting it to be a 5-star read. The book takes place over 4 years, which is kind of a long time considering the pacing for each segment is kind of slow. So each chapter is broken into like around 4-month period, or like something that happens and then like 4 months later something else happens and that's the next chapter. And the pacing is very detailed, it's very slow, and it's almost like intimate moments. So you get to see these characters in depth, and you get to see them grow, and you get to see them change and stuff like that. And like each chapter isn't just one singular moment, like there's a lot of like flashbacks and stuff to kind of give you a more complete story. It's interesting because it's not exactly a straightforward linear story because there's so many flashbacks interwoven in the story. It's more like you get bits and pieces at a time, and then they explain why this is happening the way it is. And I think that part is really interesting. However, I was kind of annoyed with it at times because there were parts of it I thought just dragged. Yeah, so this book took me a lot longer to read than I was expecting to because there were parts of it that I thought were a little bit boring, and it kind of made me not really want to pick the book back up. But on the flip side, there were other parts that I thought were very interesting, and I read through them very quickly. It was just a little hot and cold for me to like it consistently. So aside from the writing style, this book talks about a lot of important topics, and it touches on mental health, it touches on sexual assault and abuse and all these things. So definitely check out some trigger warnings before you read this. And I thought that those topics were handled very well. Like some of these topics were handled so well that I was like not exactly uncomfortable reading it, but I was kind of like, this is very intimate. Like I'm inside of Connell's mind when I'm reading this, or I'm inside of Marianne's mind reading this. Like I feel it the way she feels it. So moving on to the characters, Connell and Marianne are the 2 main characters, and there are other characters that kind of filter in and out because I mean, this goes over 4 years of their life, so they're not going to be consistently with the same group of people forever. And I really liked Marianne and Connell as people. They were so real, like so flawed. And I liked reading that about them. Like I liked to see their downfalls and how much they struggle with certain things and their conflicts and stuff, and like the inner conflict as well as the conflict between each other. And I also thought the dynamic between them was very realistic. So like as I said earlier, it's not a romance, so I'm really trying my best not to be spoilery here, but I'm just gonna say like their relationship was kind of on again, off again. I think I said earlier that it was like a second chance romance, and I take that back. It's not like that at all. It's more on again, off again. And I liked seeing those moments because it just made them so real. Like, I feel like I'm being repetitive here, but it just felt so real. So there was a lot of elements I really did enjoy in this book, and I did tab it up. Blue tags are moments that I really enjoyed, and actually I think I'm gonna read a couple of quotes to you because I thought some of them, like, I keep thinking about them. So there's this one where Connell's talking about going to college. He's thinking about doing an English degree, but he can't really decide on that because he wanted to do law, but he doesn't really like law. He's more of an English mind. That makes him feel bad because it's not like English is a real degree you can get a job out of. It's just a joke. And then he thinks he probably should have applied for law after all. And I just thought that was kind of funny because I have an English degree and I got a job in my field. I understand that that's not common and that I was kind of lucky finding this job, but like, I just thought that it was funny reading that because when I was getting an English degree, I was definitely thinking the same thing of like, what kind of job am I gonna get from this? And then there was this other moment I thought was just great. It's like my only pink tab, and for pink, those are like the moments that I loved, and green here, moments that I found funny. This is something that Marianne says about Connell, and she's thinking it, she doesn't actually say it. His appearance is like a favorite piece of music to her, sounding a little different each time she hears it. And I just thought that was so beautiful. I really did enjoy the writing of this. The words that Sally Rooney uses, I really did enjoy. Do I think the book is worth the hype? That's like one of the reasons why I was reading this book. I'm on the fence about this because I can understand why people loved it so much. However, I do kind of think that it's overhyped. I didn't love it as much as I was thinking I was going to love it based on the hype. So I guess based off of that criteria, it's not worth the hype. But I do think it's a good read, and I do think it's worth it to read it. I just don't think it's as amazing as people say it. This might be one of those books where I feel like I'm giving it a 3 stars right now, but in 2 months from now, I'm gonna be like thinking about it constantly and like want to give it a higher rating. I feel like it's gonna be one of those circumstances. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!